Hi everyone, my name is Marina Trambu and I'm the founder and CEO of Equo. Equo is a sustainable brand that provides 100% plastic-free and compostable products starting with straws and utensils made out of materials like grass, rice, coconut, sugarcane, and coffee. We replaced over 30 million pieces of plastic in the environment. We have shipped to over 15 different countries. We've been on Shark Tank and a number of different other reality shows actually. We closed our seed round of 1.3 million USD in funding. Recently, I was very fortunate enough to win the Entrepreneur Award by the Women of the Future organization. I was also named one of Global 50 Women Within Sustainability by Sustainability X magazine. So those are some of the things that we've been able to accomplish. I was born and raised in Canada. I grew up in Vancouver. We didn't have a lot of money because we were immigrants. My parents came to Canada with nothing. I think when I was growing up, I didn't really see it as anything sort of difficult, primarily because everyone around us were immigrants. My parents took me to Vietnam for the first time when I was 13. It was a very big culture shock for me. Back then, there weren't even roads and traffic lights. 20 years ago, everyone was just roundabouts and they were just driving. I came back a few times just to travel and I started to like it better each time. I think technology has really changed Vietnam quite a bit. Everything used to be very cash based, and then now you can pay by the banks and certain things. Like, it's so much more advanced. I would also say convenience has completely changed. I think Vietnam is one of the most convenient countries in the world. It's done amazing in that. Like I'm saying, I'm coming from Canada, the US, it's supposed to be one of the most developed countries, but things are so slow, and you see that and you realize that, and then you go back to visit and you realize that even more. And I'm like, man, I don't know how these countries operate, right? And it takes days, months, hours to get things done, to see a doctor or whatever else. It's quite lagging behind in a lot of different areas, actually. So I got my bachelor's of commerce from the University of British Columbia, and I focused on marketing. I actually did an internship over the summer in Hong Kong. In Korea, I did one semester in Korea just to study the Korean language, and honestly just to get a more, I would say, global international experience. And then I moved over to Toronto where I started my career. So I was doing brand management and marketing for companies like Unilever, Bacardi, LG. I finally moved here in 2019. Really, the reason why I moved to Vietnam was my father, he was diagnosed with a late stage lung cancer. I was only actually supposed to be here for a year. I left my job and left my friends and a lot of stuff back home. But during that time, in that year, I think I went through a lot of different changes as a person. Living in Asia versus actually just traveling it is a completely different experience. And being here in Vietnam, it opened my eyes up to a lot of things. The latest statistics show us that we have less than 7 years until we do irreversible damage to the planet. And by irreversible damage, it means there's no way we can recover. There's nothing we could do. For example, we're starting to see microplastics in the blood. We're even seeing it in unborn babies as well. That's how far microplastics have penetrated our environment and our bodies. And the fact that people don't know this, right? They don't know that, hey, your actions on reducing plastic usage can actually not only help the environment, but actually save a life as well. Now, the problem that we're trying to specifically address is actually within single-use plastics. On average, people are using them for 15 minutes or less. And then after they throw it away, it stays on the planet for hundreds of years. So that's what we're specifically trying to address, is things that plastic doesn't really need to be used for. Climate change, sustainability, environmentalism was huge. Then the pandemic came in, and then now health became number one, which it should. So all these reusable things that were used in the past, reusable water bottles, even some cutlery in restaurants, the metal straws or glass straws that people used to wash, now people are like, no, I don't want to use those because I'm afraid of the germs. So this is also another benefit of what we're trying to do, is we're saying, hey, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to reuse anything. You don't have to wash it. You don't have to worry about germs. Use a new one like ours, but use it made of a better material, where it makes sense that you use it only for 15 minutes and you throw it away, but it disappears. less than a year. So the products that we have in our product line, first off, are the straws. We have 5 different materials: grass, rice, coconut, sugarcane, and coffee. Then we also have utensils made out of sugarcane, coffee, and wood. We also have some quite fashionable stuff, including our tote bag, and we're planning on expanding that range even further this year. In the past, really kind of the only choices you had were, plastic and paper for straws, right? And the paper straws, they sucked. Plastic ones are terrible for the environment. So rather than try to say this is the material that's going to solve the entire planet's problems, we said, you know what, as a consumer, explore all the different materials, choose which one you like for what you need. No one in the world, not a single person in the world, has figured out a sustainable alternative material that works for everything yet. I think a lot of our competitors, unfortunately, they focus so much on making sure that this is the one sustainable material that's going to be super successful that sometimes it takes them too long to get there, or sometimes they innovate for 10 years and realize it is limited in its properties. That kind of gives us a lot of competitive advantage because we are not limited by just one single material, because we know that innovation is so fast, especially in the sustainable space. So it allows us to go ahead and be able to leverage new sustainable materials. Rice straws, they actually don't last in drinks very long, maybe about 30 minutes, but they are edible. They're very, very colorful. And people like them because they have the factor of they're natural, right? Then you have the other kind of component, which is on the sustainability side. For us, it was very important to try to push and to promote home compostable products, which all of Eco products are, because you can literally throw it in a compost or outside and it will decompose. Can you name any sort of straw brand or fork brand? 99.9% of people will say no. No brands have taken the time to build themselves a brand within the category because they don't think it's worth it. Like, you sell a product, but you don't tell anyone about it. How is anyone going to find you again? How is anyone going to come back to you, And that's why we try to focus on it so much, because we want people to come back. We want people to ask questions, because if they ask questions, they learn more about sustainability. It turns into long-term behavior change. And education comes with branding. That's what a lot of our competitors don't do, is that they don't care to educate consumers. They just think that, you slap a label, oh, it's sustainable, it's eco-friendly, and then people should believe them. I think now consumers are getting so smart. They're also kind of be like, you know what? You say you're sustainable, but I don't know anything about you. I don't know if I should believe you. And that is what is now starting to come back to some of these brands who didn't take the time to educate. So the fact that we are educating too makes us very, very different from some of these competitors. So we explain everything about our products on our packaging. You can find a lot about it on our website, on our social media channels. We don't even just talk about our product. We actually try to educate people about the latest news in sustainability. Most people don't even know the difference between recycling and biodegradable and compostable, what's good and what's not good. People would be willing to pay for sustainable products, but at the same time, sustainability is not what they care about the most. They care more about taste, design, functionality before sustainability. Sustainability is the anchoring point. It's a big feature, which is why we emphasize so much on design as a brand. And all of a sudden, we see a lot of competitors kind of copying what we are doing, which is the biggest form of flattery, right? Imitation is the biggest form of flattery, but it's showing that we're doing something right, and they're copying us because they understand that what we are doing first, which is building a brand, building trust and credibility with our audience, pays off in the long run, even though it's cost more. One thing I learned along the way is you actually can't be good at everything. And what we were really good at, and what my core competency was, marketing, design, packaging. But I wasn't good at manufacturing. And if someone else can do it better than me and for cheaper or faster than me, why would I compete in that space? So that was one of the biggest, costliest lessons I learned. And then finally, I learned the power of storytelling. That was something that, I'll be quite honest, I wasn't good at before. I was not a good public speaker. I was not confident in storytelling. I was not confident in telling my story either. Let's say you're in your corporate job. You already have a story for the company that you are to tell. You're not creating your own story. And the way I kind of learned how to tell a story was I had to build pitch decks. And the reason why I had to build pitch decks was because I had to ask for investment, I had to tell people why I started this company, why I needed money, why they should believe in me. Once you become really good at pitching and really good at telling your story, you can convince anyone to either use your product or to invest in you. I would say the biggest difficulty that we are facing is probably just like everyone else. Look, like the reality is that things have gotten a lot more expensive and people are not willing to pay for as much, right? And where they start to withdraw in terms of spending is in the areas which they perceive are not needed. There's that belief that sustainability should be the first to be sacrificed. Our solution right now is really to listen to the customer. So for us, we're like, okay, we get it. We understand that it's going to be tough for you to spend on this. So we're going to try to find alternate solutions that will still be able to help the customer, whether it's reducing the cost on our products, whether it's innovating, introducing new products that are more cost effective. So I think that's what we're trying to do and pivot around and also try to prove out this year. I think people have to understand failure is like learning or like practicing. When you start playing basketball or football, the first time you play, you're probably terrible. But just because you're terrible, does that mean you stop playing? Like, no, if you like it, right, you're going to keep practicing and practicing and practicing until you get better. So it's the same sort of thing. If people thought about playing piano or and learning a language, or even learning a sport, if you take a look at all three of those examples that people have every single day, those are all examples of failing constantly, but continuing on. And so this is the same mindset that you have to apply to business and entrepreneurship, is you're gonna fail a lot of times. The only difference is there's some people who have failed a lot of times and gave up, and some people who have failed a lot of times and kept going. First advice is you have to understand how hard it is. It's not easy. It's not fun, it's not glamorous. It's not like on TV and it's not like on Shark Tank. It's none of that, okay? Number two, make sure that you do not leave any opportunity on the table. It's always better to say oops than what if, because what if is always, oh man, I regret it and I don't know what could have happened. But if you say, oops, I did something, it's like at least you learn and you move on. Third one is always be learning. So a lot of entrepreneurs I've seen, unfortunately, they feel like they know everything because they started their startup earlier than everyone else. That's the wrong attitude to have, because if you don't feel that you need to continue learning, then your startup is going to stay the same and the market is going to change. So always have the attitude of learning, and then you'll find success. One big advice I have for sustainability businesses and startups is do not get so fixated on how sustainable your product is that you forget about what the consumer needs. And the reason why I say this is a lot of times we see great sustainable products out there, right? This great sustainability story, but they keep forgetting, like, who would buy this? Some people are like, it's how much impact we have. No, like, we are a business first. And so for us, revenue is the biggest thing. Without any sort of business metrics, you cannot achieve your sustainable metrics. Well, we just did a nice little small collaboration with Pizza 4Ps, which was very exciting for us. But yeah, the goal is that we can collaborate with as many different brands around the world as possible, just to spread our message, but to show that sustainability is super easy and it's fun and it's not like boring or like inconvenient. We have a list of people that we definitely want to partner with and work on. The dream would obviously be Starbucks, even some different hotel chains, really great food and beverage companies. I get a lot of people and questions coming saying, I want to move back to Vietnam and do a startup. And I'm like, why? Is it because you just want to move back to Vietnam? It's comfortable? Is it because you're going to build a product that will solve a problem in Vietnam? Because if so, okay. The second thing I would say is understand what advantages you have and what disadvantages that you have. Obviously, if you've moved overseas and lived overseas, there's some things that you gain in terms of knowledge that you can use here and leverage here, but that doesn't guarantee success. A lot of overseas Vietnamese come to Vietnam and all of a sudden they expect, well, I was educated overseas, or I worked overseas. It should be easy for me to do a startup. I should know more. And that is a little bit of an arrogant attitude to have. So if you're gonna come here, understand the advantages that you have from living overseas, but also the disadvantages that you have too. My biggest goal is to change people's notions of Vietnam being like, just a tourist country or third world and developing and not advanced enough to be able to do all this innovation. I really want to change that mindset for a lot of people. In 3 to 5 years, I see us as being one of the largest players in the world when it comes to offering sustainable solutions. And I like to try to inspire other women founders to pursue what it is they want to do, even in an area that people typically do not see a lot of returns or money making, like sustainability. My goal is to hopefully be a good example for future women founders.